My name is Pat Devaney, and I'm the president of the Associated Firefighters of Illinois. The AFFI represents 15,000 firefighters in 206 locals across the state. There's been much discussion and many suggestions as to how we should fix the downstate police and fire, Chicago police and fire pension systems. However, I have not heard anyone touch on this morning, and I would like to, as briefly as possible, touch on what drove the problem in some of the funds to begin with. Pension reform efforts began back in 2007. We've been negotiating for several years. One of the results of that, and we believed it was very positive, was in Public Act 95-950. Public Act 95-950 did a number of things that affected the pension funds. It added additional transparency and fee disclosure. It changed the way we analyze benefits, increased analyzation of future benefits to make sure that we weren't making decisions that would be harmful to the pension fund. The most important item that it produced was, for the first time ever, it charged the Commission on Government Forecasting and Accountability with analyzing the downstate police and fire pension systems. COGFA had looked at the fiscal health and what affected the statewide systems for a number of years. However, because of the number of funds, they had never done downstate police and fire. This was something that was initially proposed by the municipal advocacy group, some of which appeared before you this morning, and promoted as a way to find out what was negatively impacting the funding level in some of our funds. And I say some of the funds because during the same time we've seen a dramatic decline in funding level in some of the downstate police and fire pension funds. In others, we have seen stabilization and a decent funding level because of the approach that they had taken to funding for a long period of time. The COGFA report was released in January, and it studied all of the funds throughout the state in aggregate, as well as 5 specific police and 5 specific fire funds. The 5 specific police and fire funds, it aimed to analyze what were the leading drivers of the unfunded liability that was created during the 5-year study period. There were 3 leading drivers of unfunded liability. The first were poor investment returns. Whether you had a bank account, a 401k during the study period, there had been a decline in the market, and many of the funds were negatively impacted by the effects of the market. The second were actuarial assumptions that the employers had been using to base their contributions on annually. Specifically, the assumption of investment return, which I'll talk about in just a minute. The third were the most egregious offenders, the ones who did an actuarial valuation but said, you know what, either we're unwilling or unable to make a contribution and we're just not going to put any money into the fund. And because Article 3, Article 4, Article 5, and Article 6 do not have a contribution enforcement mechanism, there was no way for the pension funds to go back and to capture those monies that were owed them. Now, I mentioned investment returns and the impact, actuarial assumptions, and the impact that that has had on the funding level. Of the 5 fire funds, 77 cents of every dollar of unfunded liability that was created during the study period were created by those items other than benefit increases. That was on the fire side. On the police side, during the 5-year study period, not a single penny of unfunded liability was created as a result of any benefit changes. Now, Mayor Davlin from Springfield testified, or actually participated in a press conference yesterday, and stated that as a result of actions taken by the General Assembly, that Springfield had seen a huge decline in the funding levels and had also experienced a dramatic increase in their contributions over the same period of time. Now, unfortunately, because everyone has said benefits drove this problem, many people are believing that to be true. Now, we want to look at what the facts actually said in the COGFA report, since Springfield was one of the communities studied by COGFA. COGFA found that of the $50 million in unfunded liability that was created during the 5-year study period, only 84 cents of every dollar of that $50 million were caused by things other than benefit increases. Fully a third of that was caused by poor actuarial assumptions. Springfield had been returning, I believe, in excess of 8% during the study period and returning 5%. Now, on a $100 million fund, you're creating $3 million in unfunded liability every single year. Now, those are the problems. Those aren't the problems as defined by the firefighter unions, the police unions, the pension funds. This is the results of the COGFA study.